Coming back in our next segment, we'll talk with the founder of a local organization recently honored for his work helping to free slaves in northern Africa. Welcome back to News Conference. Charles Jacobs, the founder of the American Anti-Slavery Group, was honored in Boston this week. The Boston Freedom Award was given to him. The prestigious award was given by Coretta Scott King at the Old South Meeting House in Boston. Mr. Jacobs' mission involves buying slaves in the northern African nation of the Sudan and then freeing them as part of Africa torn apart by civil war. With help from the American Anti-Slavery Group and others like it, activists say for what amounts to about $50 a person, over 35,000 Sudanese slaves have been freed in recent years.
You have reawakened America's conscience and our moral responsibility to take action to eliminate slavery wherever it is practiced. I am personally inspired by your tireless dedication to alleviate the oppression of chattel slavery in North Africa.
Charles Jacobs, good morning and welcome. You brought a photograph that I find fascinating, and we're going to put up on the screen right now, showing people who have just found out they're free. How long were they slaves, and what did it take to free them?
Well, they were captured in slave raids, could have been a year, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. These are women and children taken from their mostly Christian villages in South Sudan as part of a war, a holy war against the Christian South by the Islamic fundamentalist government in the north. The girls are concubines, the boys are goat herds, and the picture you see is at the very moment they realize that the abolitionists whom they've heard about are spotted by them with the cash, and so that's a smile of freedom that you see.
You have, and you're doing what you think is God's work, and you've been honored for it, and yet you don't give your address out, you don't give your phone number out. The organization basically is underground. Why is that?
Well, we're not underground. We have offices in Boston, but we have security questions because concerns because the people in Sudan who are doing this don't like that we've exposed them for what they are. After all, if Sudan is charged with slavery, that's a crime against humanity that's actionable internationally. So people can call us, people can reach us anytime they like. We're fine, we're open, we're just a little careful.
How many slaves are there in the Sudan, by estimates?
About 100,000 slaves in the Sudan. People need to know that there are 27 million slaves in the world. And this is the one case where we can have a direct freeing effect.
How do you come up with that figure? I mean, 27 million slaves. I don't think people can comprehend that.
Yeah, it's a conservative estimate. It's just been documented by an important book called Disposable People by Dr. Kevin Bales, who will be testifying with me to the Senate next week. It includes millions of people in debt bondage in Pakistan and India. It includes the little children who are shackled to the looms to weave oriental carpets that may be found in our homes in Asia. It includes Haitians who were forced to do the sugar crop in the Dominican Republic. It includes 50,000 women trafficked here, according to the CIA, in the United States every year. So slavery is a growing phenomenon. It has been the stepchild of the human rights movement until we stepped in.
Your critics say that what you're doing could be counterproductive, that paying to buy slaves might entice people to take more of them for sale.
Well, look, we're Americans. We know about supply and demand. And if we thought our actions were doing that, if we thought for a minute that this was going to increase slave raids on these villages, we wouldn't do it. We do it at the behest of the Bishop of Sudan, Bishop Makram Kassis, who wrote in the Boston Globe an editorial asking us to do it, along with 40 village elders of the tribes where these people are taken. The fact is the prices have gone down and slave raids have decreased during the most large buybacks.
Most of your buybacks that I've read about are $50, the equivalent of $50 American dollars per slave.
Went down to 35, and that flies in the face.
What causes that?
Well, for one thing, the people have been able to defend against slave raids when they get their wives and children back. Recently, the Black Army in the South defending these villages blew up 2 bridges that allowed the slave trains to come down. You know, there's inflation in Sudan. The prices are not going up.
Well, what are you going to tell? You say next week you're testifying before a special Senate committee. What is the purpose of your testimony?
Our testimony, the Congress has said that what Sudan is doing is genocide. The President has been silent. Madeleine Albright told me in a room at the State Department in last September that the suffering and the slavery in Sudan does not seem to be marketable to the American people. We want to come with a sense of outrage. We're coming with a man who is an escaped slave from Sudan and who speaks English, to tell the Congress to push the President to finally act. President Clinton told Elie Wiesel that never again really includes Africa too, but he's been absolutely silent on this matter, and that has to end.
What about the United Nations?
Well, the United Nations, you know, the reason that the Dalai Lama couldn't get into that United Nations meeting, Kofi Annan explained, is that the United Nations is a club of members, and they have to be very careful about the sensibilities of those members. Well, Sudan's a voting member, the slaves are not. And the United Nations has been also shamefully, even though they've documented it time and time again, they've sent special rapporteurs to see if it's true, and it is true, and they've reported on this, the UN won't do anything.
How do people help your movement?
They first have to learn that slavery is not history. There are 27 million slaves. We have to push this forward. Educationally, they have to educate themselves. Come to our website, anti-slavery.com, read our materials, see the photographs and the documents. There are curriculum guides, and then join us. We're a bunch of, we have wonderful young interns. We just had a black intern from Harvard return from Sudan. Freeing slaves. People can do research and they can do outreach like any other movement. They need to write to Congress. Barney Frank is on our side. Ed Markey's on our side. The Black Church now is on our side. We're moving. The Freedom Train is moving.
Thank you for joining us. Good luck and congratulations on your award.
Thank you very much.